Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 3.0, a podcast and series of shortcasts where we discuss all the recent happenings and the mindset required to get into the Web3 space. So, as you know, the multi chain ecosystem is increasing day by day, and blockchains are evolving with the need of interoperability solutions. And one of them is bridges, either centralized or decentralized, which is creating a single point of failure for transferring assets. Recently, a bridge called Nomad got exploited with over $200 million and was ranked the fifth largest hack in the ecosystem. So, without further ado, I will be presenting our next guest, Ahmed Ali from Exord. He is a blockchain engineer over at Exord, and he would be discussing with us how this bridge hack happened and what were the points of failure in that. So, hello, Ahmed.
Hi Arham, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, my man?
Yep, I'm doing good. Great.
So, Ahmed, if you could go on forward with telling about yourself, a little about your background of what you do and how you got in the Web3 space and became a blockchain engineer.
Sure. My background is kind of interesting and a bit different. So, I recently graduated from NED University as a chemical engineer in 2021, and my blockchain career started from 2019, um, where I started blockchain and I built up an interest in the Web3 space. And since then, I've been studying and building stuff. And I joined Exord as well recently and worked on projects such as Metadot and other Exord projects.
So, from chemical to Web3 to blockchain like coding, how was that transition?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. I had a passion for coding, but due to certain events, I had to choose like a different field in NED because NED name. So I had to choose chemical engineering. But in the middle of my engineering studies, I realized that I should like learn my passion as well.
Hmm,
So I decided to take both of these studies side by side, like studying chemical engineering and coding. I joined PIEIC, Presidential Initiative of Artificial Intelligence and Computing. So they actually introduced blockchain for the first time in Pakistan, and I was the first. I was in the first batch of their blockchain course. So from there, all of this started.
that's nice. That's nice. So, moving forward, what can you tell us about this Nomad Bridge and how everything took place?
Yep, sure. In order to understand the hack of this Nomad bridge, first of all, we basically need to understand what Nomad was. So, as you said, that interoperability solutions are increasing day by day, and bridge is one of them. Nomad is no exception. It's an optimistic bridge. Optimistic means is like um, everything is positive. So it assumes that each and everything is positive, and it bridges assets between Ethereum, Moonbeam, EVMOS, and Milko Meda. So these are the chains which were connected to this particular Nomad bridge. So their claim was that users can bridge their tokens from one chain to another, their NFTs, their DAOs, their cross-chain applications, and all of that stuff. Um, but of course, bridges are certainly a point of failure, and Nomad is no exception. So on 1st of August, we had an exploit in the Nomad bridge, and it was almost a 3 hours hack. So the total time period and almost $200 million were stolen. So that's huge, and that affected um, all of the related projects and Nomad as well.
So, if we dig down a little deep in everything that is happening in the space and all the stuff, so the exploit was made possible by a misconfiguration of the project of the main smart contract that allowed anyone with a basic understanding of the code to authorize withdrawal themselves. How do you see that?
All right. Yep. Yep. So there was a really huge flaw in the contract itself, and the fun part is you don't even need to be technical person to understand that you can exploit the bridge. So what happened was, I'll first explain what their goal was, like the actual process that should have been happened, but it got exploited. So there was a two-step process from transferring funds from one chain to another. So the first step was to prove that the message you are sending, it needed to be proved, and like and it was included in a Merkle tree, like a database you can think of, and then it creates a root hash, um, and that root hash was like put in the smart contract and was telling the smart contract that this person is legit, this transaction is legit, and I have proved it. And the second process was actually the actual transfer of the fund itself, like the actual transaction. So the flaw in the smart contract was in the first step, the proving step. So what happened was, what seemed to be happening was that messages weren't being processed properly, and they weren't being confirmed. And um, once the initial exploiting transaction went through, anyone could simply like submit a similar transaction and drain all of the funds. So if I go a bit deeper into the scenario, there was a routine upgrade in June in the Nomad's replica smart contract, because it was an upgradable smart contract. So um, they had routine upgrades in the smart contracts as well. And previously, they had a lot of upgrades as well. So in June, they initialized the contract with zero values. So it's a common practice to initialize the contract with zero values. But in this particular case, the function had a side effect. So what I mean by side effect is that it was pre-approving a root, and in this case, the root was 0x00, which was zero value. So that's what created the whole chaotic issue. That a zero value is telling the smart contract that it is a proven message, which is definitely not right, and it created all of the issues. So when the people found out that this is an issue, they started doing the transactions, and it was just a point in time that someone could like finally get a transaction right and drain all the funds. So an interesting thing as well, I saw that the first hacker who tried to get the transaction right, that particular transaction got reverted, and around 200 Ethereum was paid as fees. So that's huge. Uh,
Oh,
and
200 Ethereum.
yup, 200 Ethereum. That's huge. And the transaction got rejected. So, but later on, that same exploiter um, ran with $6 million. So I guess that transaction, that reverted transaction, was worth it for him.
Damn, six. Say, tell the number again.
$6 million.
Oh my God.
So when this hacker had his first transaction right, what other people did was copied the same transaction. Like, of course, it's a public blockchain, and you can copy everything from the transactions even
Hmm.
before you. So people copied the same transaction and started doing that same transaction with their own address to drain the funds. So it was a word of mouth. So people were spreading it out, and like it was a copy paste thing. And front running bots and MEV bots, they also got really active, and they started to drain the funds as well.
So Ahmed, when everything happened, you told that the transaction took place and the hacker paid or got the money and the rest. How did it stop? The 3 hour long incident. How did it stop? Who stopped it?
Yep, so that's interesting. The Nomad team should have responded earlier when the exploit started, but apparently um, they responded 3 hours later when the exploit actually began. So it was quite late, and all of the funds were like uh, exploited when they removed the replica contract as the owner, which ultimately stopped the hack, but it was too late.
So, Ahmed, how did it affect the ecosystem as a whole? How did this bridge affect it all?
So, as you know, almost $200 million were exploited. So that's a huge number, especially in this bear run. So that really affected a lot of projects connected to it, like Moonbeams, TVL, dropped from 300 million to 135 million. So, and similarly, EVM OS and Milkomeda also had a drop in their TVL because these kinds of hacks actually create FOMO in people. So, the people who don't know FOMO, what FOMO is, it's fear of missing out. So, it creates a ripple effect which damages the whole ecosystem, and people start to um, take out their money, and it's basically just a ripple effect which affects not only the bridge or the chain itself, but all of the connected multi chains, like I explained previously.
So, for the future, Ahmed, if you could give any, pointers, anything, any mindset that is required for this, and how do people buck up from such a situation?
Okay, that's a really good question. So, first of all, I would definitely relate to this particular hack that there was a huge flaw in the team of Nomad, that they didn't tested out the smart contract and they released their um, new upgrade immediately without testing, and that actually created the whole issue. So, I would say most of the protocols or individual developers who are building out such protocols and such smart contracts, they really need to rigorously test their smart contracts. Like, different kinds of testing mechanisms are present, like unit testing, fuzzing, symbolic executions, and scenario testing. So people really need to, like, developers really need to understand the security perspective of the smart contracts, security best practices. They should use good quality tools such as Echidna or Foundry and other tools for auditing purposes and testing purposes, so that their smart contracts are safe and secure. One more thing I see a lot of happening is that people are rushing out and they're just releasing their products and their smart contracts and not testing it properly. I really understand that deadline is an important fact, but we really need to understand that in the smart contract or in the Web3 world, each and everything is decentralized. And once you deploy a smart contract, you actually can't update the smart contract if it's not an upgradable. If it's an upgradable smart contract, then you can definitely upgrade it. But still, you gotta like test out the contract and do some security measures.
Okay, I think that's about it. That's everything that we need to know. Is there anything, Ahmed, that you would like to add in this?
Um, well, as of now, no, but definitely people really need to like say stay safe out there. Um, do some security measures as an individual as well. As a user perspective, you kind of need to like stay away from some websites that are draining your wallets or your private keys. Don't ever give your private key or mnemonic to anyone if he or she is your closest friend, because you don't know if a message coming from your closest friend is realistic or not. Even it could be that a hacker is simulating your friend and trying to exploit you. So we are seeing a lot of hacks, such hacks as well. Uh,
Yes,
Wallets are.
that is very true because we can see people are giving away the private keys very easily. The more the industry is taking growth stage, more and more hacks are happening, and more people are trying to invade in the space, and money is going out in a flash.
Yep, exactly. Like, people have their mindset according to Web 2, so like they're putting out really weak passwords on their wallets, their systems, their phones, and they're just keeping their private keys and mnemonics digitally, which shouldn't be the case. You should always keep your private keys and mnemonics safe and sound, written on a piece of paper, on a piece of or a piece of metal, and keep it somewhere safe in your house or whatever wherever you want. But don't ever keep your private keys and mnemonic in your system digitally, because it's vulnerable to hacks. It's really easy to hack such systems and like drain your wallet.
Mm. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for the advice. And once again, thank you so much for being with us here today. I hope the audience understands what happened and they are very much clear on the everything that took place. If anyone has any questions, you can just join us in our Blockship Discord community, or you can leave a question in the comments on the YouTube platform. And make sure to like and subscribe our podcast so you can get notifications in the next upcoming project. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for being here. I hope to see you soon again.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
having
much.
me.